Welcome to the Choosing Happiness podcast with me, your host, Rüdrani Devi, the Happiness Lady. In these conversations, we will be discussing an uncommon way to find joy in your life with weekly special guests. Did you know you could choose your happy? Won't you come and play and discover how these magical tools could work for you? Let's do this. Hey, we're live. I'm with my pal, Tisha Morris. She's my next awesome guest on the Choosing Happiness podcast, named after this little yellow book, my third book, which now speaks Russian, Portuguese, Spanish, Arabic soon, and Mandarin in the process of. And then there's Tisha, who showboating me. Her fifth book is about to come out, which I definitely want to talk about. Before we get there, Tisha and I have known each other. I don't even know when we met exactly, but I know that she moved 10 years ago, which blows my mind, to California. So we've known each other longer than that. And when I met her, she was in a completely different world. And then she kind of did a little full circle thing. So Tisha, before I try to tell your story, please introduce yourselves to our listeners now and in the future. And also on YouTube, by the way. And, who you are, what you do, all the things.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm Tisha Morris. I'm an entertainment attorney and author and Feng Shui expert, perhaps the only Feng Shui lawyer you will meet. But I first have to recognize Rüdrani for being the introducer for me to the world of energy. It was early 2000s when we met. And you were my first energy healer, and completely woke me up to the unseen world, which inspired me then to become an energy healer myself. And that's what led me into Feng Shui. So you've been a very pivotal person in my life.
I will acknowledge that. I will receive that. Thank you. And I didn't know that was the case.
And you were the first person that was my first meditation teacher as well, which obviously meditation is huge. So you were my first.
I was your first. She was a virgin, y'all. Until me. True story. I love it. And I love that you started with energy, because energy, well, it's a universal language. It's my first language. Mm-hmm. I feel like a walking, talking meditation, as I'm always following the energy of what to do, where to go next. It's even in the morning when I wake up. It isn't this knee-jerk thing where I automatically go and make tea or coffee. I ask my body, so it's like this: who or what are we today? And what glorious and grand adventure are we going to get into, body? I'm dragging you around. I may as well include you. And then my body speaks to me in this energy language. It'll pull me in different directions, or I'll hear little whispers. Absolutely. And that's basically how I live my life. It's like every 10 seconds. Oh, okay, now we're going to do this. Okay, where do I need to put my attention now? Oh, well, what's this thing about? And that's what interested me in doing the energy healing, because I noticed that bodies would also talk to me. So you dipped your toe into the world of Rüdrani Devi, and then what happened? What led you to the next?
Well, what led me to you to begin with is because I was having all kinds of psychosomatic, dis-ease in my body, because I was very unhappy in doing the things I was doing. So it really precipitated a whole lifestyle change for me, which at the time I was practicing law, working as a creditor's attorney.
Ooh, it sounds like fun.
Yeah, right. I know. It sounds great, doesn't it? Working for institutions, and I hated it. I just was miserable. And so I then around that same time realized I was gay. And so that was also out of alignment of, so I was really living a life that I thought, it wasn't, I didn't feel like anyone was pressuring me to live that life, although there was the subtleties in which steer us in our younger years. But once I started getting in my body and understanding, then the body can't lie anymore, or you can't ignore it.
It screams. It doesn't just whisper to you, people. It'll scream at you.
That's right.
Why we have bodily pains, because their body is dare I say, smarter than you and trying to tell you something.
That's
Hello.
right. So, so yeah, I started having these crazy dreams about spaces, about interior design spaces.
Huh.
And so I decided to go to interior design school. And so I did that for 3 years while I was still practicing law in the daytime. And then interior design led me, and around that time I started teaching yoga, got into yoga, really just took the gateway drug into, into all the healing arts modalities. And that's what led me to Feng Shui. And that's has been my career for 12 years is Feng Shui. And I have 4 books on the topic now.
Yes. And a 5th book.
My 5th book
coming out very shortly.
Yes. And it really is the culmination of my journey of really of mixing the right and left brain, of really coming full circle with my work in Feng Shui, and also my work now as an attorney working with creatives, very different than a creditor's attorney. And so the book is called Missing Element, Hidden Strength. And it's really inspired by the Joseph Campbell quote of the cave you fear to enter holds your greatest treasure. And it is based on the 5 elements that are used in Feng Shui, which come through Taoism. And I take these 5 elements and apply them to our everyday life. One, that being our own personality, how we run our energy. We all have a dominant element. We all have a what I call weak or missing element. And it's by actualizing that weakness, that strength, that cave you fear to enter, holds your greatest opportunity to kind of up level, make changes, complete a book, start a project, end the project. It holds the key to any challenges, or not any challenges, but any Achilles heel that you might run into.
Give me an example, because now some people may not know what Taoism, I can't even say the word.
Taoism.
So what is that? And then explain to me how one would do what you were just talking about, where you would actually, please.
So Taoism is it's a philosophy. It's not a religion. It's a philosophy that came originally out of China and then Tibet. But the Confucius, what's his name? I just dropped his name. Lao Tzu. I forgot
Lao Tzu. Isn't that who you're about?
Yeah, they're all Taoists. And the I Ching, all of these ancient philosophies. And so that's actually where Feng Shui comes out of, is Taoism. And so as a Feng Shui practitioner, it's also what acupuncture comes out of as well. So an acupuncturist is basically balancing the 5 elements in your body. And they're each organ system is assigned an element. For example, your heart is the fire element, and so forth. And in Feng Shui, we look at the space and look at everything in terms of the elements as well. So does a space have too much fire? Does it have too much water? Not enough water? And so finding that harmonious balance within spaces is a main component of Feng Shui. So I'm taking these 5 elements into your work life, into your creative life, and seeing how we can bring more harmony into it.
I love that. I can remember Feng Shuiing my backyard.
Yeah.
Feng Shuiing my house. And I do at the door have the little mirror thing in the red gone thing that mirrors it back out. I'm trying to remember exactly why you do that. I think it's to keep an energy from coming in, and it reflects it back out into the world. Or don't remember now. I've read a lot about Feng Shui. Maybe you need to come and
the mirrors are tricky. Like if I call myself a Feng Shui doctor, I'm very particular when I prescribe a mirror, because they are very potent of how they can move around energy.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, I think I got it because of something you had told me.
What? Well, then it must be right.
And it was originally on my front door, which is not my front door anymore. This office is the only room that remotely looks anything like it did. So if you guys are on YouTube, you can see my healing room that looks remotely anything like it did before. The rest of the house looks completely different. I gutted it and added on to it. But that door that you see in the back right there, that used to lead into my house. And now it leads right into this room. And then there's double doors because I added a structure in the back for the music studio that my mother teaches out of. I moved her in at the end of 2020. And then she has her living quarters and her closet and all that stuff. So she has that whole area. And in between the two, I have this clear walkway that connects the two pieces. And that's where the front door is. It's the side of the house. Now, did I just totally break every rule in Feng Shui?
Well, well, I can tell you how you'll know if that mirror is doing anything is take it down and see what, if anything changes.
Oh, well, it's actually in the music studio.
Okay.
I have it above. The double doors go through two more double doors because it's an enclosure. And then right across from that is barn doors that are stained glass that are covering a window. And above that is the little red hexagon.
Okay.
So, because everybody seems to think that is because those are really big doors, bigger than the other doors. And, you know, they pull into the driveway and they get confused and they just go take the walkway and go right to it. So there are several times where we've had people or trick-or-treaters or, you know, salespeople go to that door and knock on the door and my mom shows up and she goes, well, I'm teaching a lesson right now. You know, it's so funny. So maybe if I removed it, it would, well, I don't know what it would do. Well, give me some scenarios.
I always say, so I have a Feng Shui school, Earth Home School of Feng Shui. And so I teach Feng Shui a lot. And so what I tell my students is, however people move through a space, and in this case, come to the doors, is how energy moves, because people are energy. So how people walk through a space is also how energy flows through a space. And so you can and so in traditional Feng Shui, there's all these rules and rules. I don't really practice that type of Feng Shui. I go by what we were just talking about in the very beginning of the body and feeling how the energy is moving versus how you want the energy to move and making some adjustments from that. So you being sensitive energy can just sense of where do you want the energy to come? Where do you not want the energy to come?
Yeah. That one probably more.
Right. Yep.
It's funny. So funny when you put it that way. And can we just say you specialize then because you have taken basically a way of life and created another way of being in it where you're including your body.
Yes.
You know? And it's so funny because so many people, they don't realize that they don't realize this is my point of view. Okay. It's like your body wants to co-create with you, right? And if you will allow it to be part of this co-creation called your life, you will always know what's going to work for you. Always. It's like even when someone can suggest something to you, it's very simple. It's like today, for example, I went and get my hair did. Oh, this little titmouse bird is right outside my window. Hi. And it's a baby. Sorry, squirrel. So I'm talking to her. I love my birds. They're a big, lovely distraction in my world. And I, side note, planted a lot of things to attract winged things. So that's kind of my jam. And I have my nature conservatory certificate right there because all the things. But I digress. So I'm talking to her and I'm telling her about something that I'm planning on doing. We're building a sunroom right now, and we were also building a pool, and it got delayed. And I kept getting this kind of sticky feeling, and then they started kind of forcing me into, okay, we're gonna do it now this Friday. And I'm like, you know what? It's starting to get cold. The heater cooler is on back order, and so I'm asking the project, hey, pool, do you want to be put in now? And initially it did, but all of a sudden it felt heavy, and that's that energy piece. So she's asking me what's going on in my world. And I told her, I said, well, actually the pool was supposed to be done on Monday. And they moved it to Friday and I'm not going to be around. And I finally went there and told them, I want to put it on hold until March because everything else is in place now. The permits, all the things. She goes, oh, no. You can't do that. You can't possibly do that. I had too many friends sitting in the same chair you're sitting, telling me that they started to do a project and then it took them 8 months later before they did. You need to do it right now. And I'm like, my body's going heavy, 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 heavy. And I said, well, I really appreciate your concern. And if it doesn't happen in March, then maybe April or May or whatever. I said, it'll happen when it happens. But I get that it's not a great idea for me to do it now. But at least now all the ducks are in the proverbial row. I have all the things in place. And so it's like, oh, now 2 birds. And she just kept insisting. She goes, you're going to thank me later. Da, 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 da. And I thought, she's not even listening to me. She's not even receiving me. I mean, she heard the words that came out of my mouth, but she immediately went into the mode of, well, I know everything or whatever it was, or I know because people are, and she's lovely. I adore this lady, but it's really funny. It's like well-meaning people. I was trying to make a new word. Well, suggest things out of love or whatever it is concern. Maybe they're a little bossy. I don't know. Whatever it is, doesn't matter to me. I don't have a point of view about why they would impale me with their thoughts, feelings, and emotions of something. I go with perceiving, knowing, being, and receiving. I mean, what's faster, knowing or thinking? So it's that space of every time she would suggest it, my knowing was, oh, my body's feeling heavy. My body knows that what we're doing is actually going to work and that won't.
Right.
So I don't know.
Well, also,
a long story about that, but this is what it kind of sounds like to me with what you're doing. Or
and also you touched on something that I want to, is that you asked your house if it was ready or wanting and willing and wanting that pool. And anytime you do any kind of renovation, any kind of structural changes to a house, and in this case, the land, you always need to ask for permission from the soul of the home.
Exactly.
The soul of the land. Because you're going to
be. The hairs on my arms stand up. Because I love that you said that. I love that you say it again. Say it again.
You need to ask the soul of your home, in this case, the soul of the land, for permission to make those changes.
Absolutely. I had to take a tree down, and it was a healthy tree. It was a walnut tree. The one thing I didn't like about the walnut tree is that it was staining my deck all the time. But now the deck is going to be a sunroom. And I talked to the tree and I said, listen, you cool with It's so funny because I find that nature doesn't really have a point of view. I mean, the big tree knows it's going to kill the little tree underneath with its shade. And the little tree is okay with that. And the big tree is okay with that because it isn't this hierarchy of I'm gonna die. So I talked to this tree. And then I had another one at the end of the yard that I didn't necessarily want to get rid of, but a lot of branches were like dropping. And I was afraid the next one was going to drop on my neighbor's house or on my house. Or that leaves from it were going to get into the pool. So I had a conversation with it. It was like, okay, can I trim you way back? And let's give that a shot. The tree's like, yes, it's exciting. I want to stay. Because I was initially going to take it all the way down. And then I felt sad about it. I had this really weird feeling in my heart, like, I don't know if it's time for this tree to go. And it's a big tree. It's a silver maple. So I told the guy, you need to cut this one back. And then we had 2 that were dead. So he laid them to rest. But when I came back from wherever, I think I had an out call with a client, he had really butchered this tree. And this is a guy that knows how to cut trees. I don't just, when I say butcher, it was like, it looked like a giant stump with just little tiny arms sticking out of it. So my landscape guy was here today and he agreed, but he said, look, it's already got all this new life. Wait in 2 years. It's going to be a very differently shaped tree. And I'm glad you decided to keep it. I don't know if I would have cut it back that much, but it looks like it's going to be okay. And when he said that, I actually felt the tree smile. It's like space because just because, Tisha and I can have a conversation doesn't mean you can't have a conversation with a bird or a squirrel or a tree or the grass or any of it,
Right.
And that's what I love so much about this landscaper because he makes it about the plants and where they thrive. This kind of plant would rather be in the shade and this kind of plant would rather be here. And so he's giving me suggestions and then I'm asking the yard and it tells me which ones. And I'll be like, yeah, I think that one is going to work in that one. So now he's writing up the whole thing. And So I love that you're, and is that me being feng shui though? Was that like an element?
Yeah, this is like actually the essence of Taoism. Taoism is the philosophy that everything is its own mini universe. So, or your home is its own. All the components in your house are just a mini universe of the big universe, and the nature, the rocks, the trees, all the elements work in a co-creative and tandem process, and that's what the 5 elements are: is water, wood, fire, earth, and metal, which are in our everyday life is trees, rocks, water, sun, basically gardening. But we can also have the symbolic forms in our house of curtains and couches and whatnot.
Sure.
And so how all these work together for a harmonious, not just survival. I like to go for thrival, but
I love that.
Nature sometimes is surviving, and sometimes, assuming that man is not, infiltrating, nature does what it does what it needs to do, right? It's gonna
Instinctively, it follows the energy. It just knows,
yeah,
right?
yeah. And like you said, it doesn't have an opinion. It just does what it needs to do. So all these are Taoist concepts, and I'm of the belief that that we need to work more in harmony with nature. And there's no better place than to start in our land that we actually have some control of, our own yards, or if you rent even just your space, your interior space, but whatever space that you have control over, find the harmony there. And then that's a great place, or you got to start there. And then, how we work in tandem with Mother Earth, really thinking beyond just our human ego wants and desires, and really thinking of things in a cohesive, co-creative way.
Absolutely. Very, very, very well put. Indeed. I'm this Earth's bitch, by the way, y'all. You've heard me talk many times about this planet. I mean, I'm here for her, not for the people. So sorry. I mean, there are people that, that I like playing with, and, I've got their back, they've got my back and all that. But people in general, when I watch what they're doing to this planet without a care in the world, and I'm going to include the world in that, it's this thing where, as long as I can have all the things I want for me and my family, and that's fine. But they don't think about, what about your children's 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 children?
Right.
What are you leaving for them? What legacy are you leaving for them when you're annihilating the planet? There's so much crazy stuff, going on in the world. I mean, I'd love to have the kind of money to save the rainforests, that kind of thing. And I've watched a lot of this stuff go backwards, which breaks my heart. And then again, the earth is like, okay, you're killing me. I don't have a point of view. And I'm like, you're so beautiful. I don't want you to go.
Yeah, it'll find ways of balancing itself, and we will be at the mercy of that as humans.
Absolutely. Because, I always say this is the earth is going to be here a lot longer than we are.
It's going to win.
It'll find a way. It'll find a way. It was really funny because I just removed a bunch of bamboo. That was something else I had to talk to. The yard was actually hating the bamboo and saying it is taking over everything, and I had to remove it if I wanted a pool, because evidently it gravitates towards water, which is not a good idea. I initially had planted it, and I did everything to get these things to root, because the first 3 years were impossible. They would fall over and all this, and then all of a sudden half my yard was covered in bamboo.
Oh, wow.
Things. It was crazy. The yard actually was like singing when the guys came to annihilate it. And I tried everything. I even called the zoo and said, y'all need some bamboo. Do you have any koalas? And I asked people, does anybody want to come to my yard and dig up some bamboo? I mean, it's free bamboo. And it's like, everybody was hating the bamboo. It's a weird thing. Nobody wanted it. And everybody had warned me before I even planted it.
Right.
It's very aggressive, and you're not going to, But my thing was, my next door neighbor had chopped down every tree that bordered our properties. And all of a sudden I would get in my hot tub and I could see 8 houses. And that pissed me off, because I had to start wearing a bathing suit in my hot tub. Now, since then, the bamboo is gone, and he has all this growth along his fence line. So the only people I can see now are them. And then we're changing. We're going to do even more beautiful growing things in the backyard and all this stuff. But I love it because, I mean, I literally heard the yard singing. The bamboo was going away. And the bamboo, again, no point of view. No point of view. Like here today,
well, that's like a really good example, honestly, of the 5 elements. So that's an overabundance of wood. So the 5 elements, it's about balance, really. And so you had an overbalance of wood, the wood element in your yard. Actually, the bamboo is actually the quintessential symbol for the wood element.
Giddy up.
So therefore there's a deficiency of some of the other elements inherently. So you just kind of balance it out. So no wonder the yard was singing.
I guess so. And my whole front yard, I don't know if you remember it, I had a lot of trees in the front yard. I have so much tree coverage now that the grass doesn't live. So I was talking again to the landscaper.
It depletes the resources, the metal element and the earth element.
That's what he was telling me. He goes, this is not friendly for the grass, but the trees are also providing a lot for the birds and the bees and the butterflies that you love so much. He goes, but you could do, and I don't remember the name of the grass. I have some of this fancy grass in my landscaping, but it looks like a little puff, right? He said, we could do your whole front yard in that, and it loves shade, and it would provide for the earth, the worms and the bugs and the things that are actually helping your trees. And he goes, and you may have to clean it up once or twice a year. And I said, from leaves and stuff? And he goes, well, no, the leaves will disintegrate. You won't have to rake the leaves. And basically, you can get rid of your yard people because all they're doing is creating this cycle and making it worse, where they're coming and mowing the lawn and then they have to seed it. And because it's counterintuitive. And I finally heard, for the first time, I was like, wow, all this time I have been plagiarizing what everybody else has been doing in the world, trying to get the perfect lawn and all the things, and I have put the grass in. I didn't ask the yard. When he started talking, my body lit up so much that I knew that I said, okay, you know what? Maybe in the spring, tell me what that's going to be. Cause my front yard's pretty big to be, I don't know how much that's going to run. And it's not even about the money. It's like, what's going to create the most, because I might spend that once and never have to mow again or pay the people to come and do the things. And I was just thinking of all the nature that was going to want to come and play in my yard now because, I'm trying to make my own rainforest. Well, not rainforest, but you know what I'm saying? The ecosystem I would like to see. It's like my mother one time, I was out of town for a class I was teaching. And my brother came to stay with her for 4 or 5 days. And she thought she would surprise me and go to the Home Depot, buy some plants randomly. And he plants them. And they're like plants that did not want to be planted where they were planted. And needless to say, no matter how much she watered them, they all died because the sun hits that part of the house. And it was just horrific. And I told her, why couldn't you wait for me to do this? I wanted to surprise you, all the things. And a couple of things that they planted were indoor plants. So again, it was this whole thing. And she finally got it. She goes, I get it. You're in charge of planting everything outside. Well, if you want to say I'm the boss of what goes outside, yes, I am. Because nature and I, we're like this, Mom. So I have my fingers crossed for those of you that have not skipped over to YouTube. Okay. So, yeah, I love it. So if I got rid of the wood, the overabundance of wood, because this is really fascinating me now. What is the pool? The pool's going to be the water element.
That's right. That's right.
And I have also a fountain in the front and a fountain at the side front door.
Nice. Good. That's a good placement.
It's a bird bath fountain over there. And then over here, I don't know if you can see out my window, but it's like a little teacup Zen thing. And all the birds think that they're personal little bird baths. Oh, it's the cutest thing. And then I have a bigger bird bath in the front. So I've got my water and I got rid of a lot of wood. Obviously, I cut down 2 trees as well. So how would I know? Would I ask my yard what other element it required? I would want to have all 5, right?
Yeah. With this kind of work, you can approach it intellectually of like knowing, like this and this and this and this. Or if you're more intuitive, then you can just, communicate with the elements as you already do. You can really approach it either way. This is because I've had students that are like electrical engineers and like, they're very heady and you can approach because energy at the end of the day is actually scientific, right?
Yeah, that's interesting,
And
isn't
so
it?
you could approach it in a head way, a cerebral way, or in a body intuitive way. I kind of combine the two, just because when we use it intellectually, we can communicate with words. So your pool would be the water element. The sun would be the fire element. So how much sun your yard gets or doesn't get.
It's going to get a lot now.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, to contrast it, my yard, because I'm in California, where we have drought issues, we lack the water element. And so we have a lot of the earth and the fire. And so we are compensating for the lack of water. And so these are things we consider in our landscaping. So we try to have things that are drought tolerant, plants and so forth. Obviously not an issue in Nashville. Y'all have, if anything, too much water.
It's very lush.
So, yeah. And so, Feng Shui is basically what we're talking about in your yard. If you could imagine that, taking that system into your house, and albeit you don't have bamboo and waters and all that, or pools and stuff in your house, they're a symbolic representation of these elements. Everything in your house is a representation of the elements. So we're attempting to bring the outdoor, the harmonious environment outside, inside. And that really is, in essence, Feng Shui for those who were new to that topic.
That's interesting. I teach a lot of different classes. I do right voice for you, relationship done different, lots of different things. And one of the classes that I love teaching, I teach every year, is called How to Become Money Workbook. There's actually a workbook, which is really funny because I barely crack the book anymore. I've taught it so many times. And one of the things that comes up, and this is going to sound a little like Feng Shui, I'm guessing, is I tell them to go room to room, pick a room, maybe do that one that day and then the next day, and ask who wants to stay and who's ready to move on, who's going to contribute, and who would like to contribute to something else. I said, there could be a picture in your house that's no longer resonating or reading. And do you know somebody that would like to have that picture? Or is this something you give to Goodwill so it has a second life, because it's not contributing to your life and living? And so I'm telling you, you've got to have every room harmonious with what's going to contribute to you and to what it is you are wanting to achieve.
Absolutely.
And when you make more space by eliminating the things that are not, you're inviting more to come in. So it's the same way with your money flows. If you're wanting more money in your life, it's like hoarders. I've noticed that a lot of hoarders, most of them don't really have a lot of money. And I'm not sure exactly.
Right, it's not an abundant path in life.
Right. You like to hold on to things. I know that for me, when I was a film producer and I had my pit crew, because as a film producer, I'm a massage therapist, everybody was on my books, my bookkeeper, the person who went and got my laundry, all this other stuff. And then when I took a leap of faith, because I had one leg in the healing world and one leg in film production world, I finally found myself straddling, and I was like, am I ready to make that leap? And I leaped over to the healing world and all this stuff. And the point of view was, oh my gosh, you've just made the biggest mistake, Rue. I mean, how are you gonna pay your bills? Healers don't make money. They don't know blah, blah, blah. They can't. And here, I had been, I don't know. I respect my money. I love money. I love playing with it, all the things. I like nice things, and I'm going, but I always paid my quarterly. What I did is I had a separate bank account that I would put 30% of everything I made into. And so when my quarterly taxes would come up, it was that simple, right? And so I thought, yeah, but I've already got a different mentality, and I know what my talents and abilities are. And I would be more of a contribution in this part of my life, and that's not to say I couldn't possibly go back to film production or something. I mean, if it were calling me and I got that it would be a contribution, I'm not saying I would dismiss it, that I'm beyond it now. I used to do a lot of yoga and now I do a lot of Pilates. It doesn't mean that yoga is bad and Pilates is better. Right. It's just these different times in your life. And yet here I am. I find myself very fluid, and I'm doing something that in this reality's point of view, you can't possibly make a living doing what you're doing. And that's what I loved about, here you are, you know, your 5th book, and you left. I mean, I know you were suffering because you really didn't enjoy what you were doing. And the thing is money follows joy also, by the way. If you love what you're doing, the money comes, you know? And so here you did this leap of faith. And I know that you did a kind of a full circle thing too, which I'd like for you to talk about. But how did you know to take that chance? And then you thrived. You didn't just survive. You know, imagine, did your family and friends think you were cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs? Oh my goddess, what did you just do?
Yeah.
What did you do? Yeah. And you're gay?
Right. Yeah, it was not going over well.
Was your family supportive about you coming out though?
No.
Well, there you have it. See, I'm not psychic at all. It's very interesting. It's very interesting, you know. Well, so this is something I want to acknowledge in you. You had that awareness to be all of you, which is what Right Voice for You is about. It's about stepping into all of you, no apologies. And there's something irresistible about the vulnerability of being willing to actually be different, to be you, even when the norm says, you know, you got to build that pool right now. You're never going to see it. You know, if you followed your knowing, which I think is amazing. And then it grew for you. I mean, I was sitting there watching you expand, you know, the books and all the things. I still have the spray.
Yeah. I have my smudge spray business.
I love that.
Sold that in 2020. Yeah. Well, you know, it helped that it's not coincidental that it coincided with me realizing I was gay, because when all that happened, my heart just blew open. And when your heart's open, you can navigate through life much easier, or much clearer. Maybe not easier is the right word, but clearer in what it's your navigational tool.
Even the things that aren't easy are easy when you know what works for you.
Right.
Sometimes you do things you don't want to do because they're easier, you know?
Right.
I mean, it's like for the longest time, my brother could really make my butt itch because he's so charismatic Catholic, and he's always praised Jesus and wearing the shirts and all the things. And I don't mind him wearing the shirts and all that. It's not that. It's just him constantly shoving it down my throat that I am not Catholic, that I was raised that way, that I'm going to go to hell in a handbasket, all this stuff. And I had to finally say, you know what? He's doing that out of what he perceives to be love for me. Look who ended up with Mom, the heathen, the one that isn't, you know, because I mean, I'm one of 6. 4 of them are very Catholic. And by the way, did I say very Catholic? Times a godzillion. And then I have the sister who broke away from Catholicism and became Mormon. And her children, she has 6 kids. They're all trying to have 6 kids. It's massive. And they're sweet as they can be, you know, and I've actually gone to service with them and all that. I mean, you know, if it works for them, glory, hallelujah. But it's that thing where I had to finally be an allowance of my brother not changing. I mean, nobody wants to be told what to do, I'm guessing. I know that's my experience. And I'm not going to tell him what to do. He's going to continue to tell me what to do. And for me to believe that that's going to change means I'm the one that's stupid, you know? So I've learned, you know, energetically speaking, that it's sometimes you just go with the flow. You don't push the river. You know you're not going to change. They might think you're buying the story because you're nodding, but it's a kindness. I mean, for me, it's not that I'm a nice person, because believe me, I can be a bitch of magnitude. I can when it's required. I'm going to do what's going to create more. And if it's required for me to be a bitch and that's going to create more, then that's where I'm going. I am a very kind person. Very kind. I will be a bitch because it'll be the kindest thing I can do.
Right.
Or I will be, you know, I'll be whatever's required. And that's an energy also. I guess that's when I'm kind of feng shuiing myself. I don't know. Can you feng shui yourself?
You're feng shui now.
You know what I'm saying? You follow me. I mean, you know, not everybody, a lot of people probably go, feng shui, meng shui. What are you talking about, crazy lady? What do you mean energies, wood, water, and all the things? You need to, you know, see a psychoanalyst or whatever.
They're probably not watching the show.
Probably not. Probably not. Although I do have some naysayers that like to come in and say little mean things. And I'm like, well, if that's, you got time to do that, cool. Cool. I'm flattered that
Right.
you're in your world.
You've chosen to spend your hate here.
So funny. Haters gonna hate.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I knew that song until I tried to do it at karaoke, and I did not know the song. It's too fast. There's a lot of words in it.
The truth comes out in karaoke.
It do. And one of my favorite things to do. I always have a microphone because I never know. Because everything's a song to me. So usually, if somebody says something and I grab and yeah. So all the things. All right then. So we had a very brief conversation beforehand, and we haven't really spoken. Gosh, since you were coming to meditation classes and coming to me for sessions. And I, don't exactly know when that was. 2000?
Early to mid 2000s.
Wow.
So we're talking almost 18 years ago, maybe?
Doggone
At least 15.
Dang shebang bang.
That's crazy.
All right. Well, that's okay. So you leave Nashville, you get married, you start writing all these books. And then we spoke briefly, and you said that you kind of did like a full circle thing now. So,
yeah. So, I have to always be intellectually challenged. Like I have a lot of air in my chart, in my astrology chart, not my Feng Shui chart. And so I kind of hit my ceiling with working in people's spaces. And at the same time, I was, as you in your words, was writing a bunch of books. I decided that where my services could best be used is helping other people get their creative works out into the world. And so there was always this, tug at me of like, I'm still a lawyer, even though I wasn't practicing law. I have some skills that could help people, particularly women, in the business world.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, continue, please.
So, and this was around the Me Too movement time, and around when Ruth Bader Ginsburg was, kind of our last hope. And I really came around to realize, have an appreciation for myself being a lawyer, or new respect maybe, or something I didn't see before. And so, problem was I didn't have my California license, living in California, so I had to take the California bar. I had to scrape old cells off my brain, create new neural pathways, and take the California bar.
This is so weird. I feel so proud of you right now.
Oh, thank you.
It's a very interesting feeling. It's like, dang, girl, you don't go small at all. I love it.
So I've been helping people write and publish books, and the publishing process comes pretty, not, I wouldn't say easy, but it comes very intuitive for me on the business side. Yeah. And so I've helped a lot of people with writing and getting the books published. Now I'm focusing a little more on entertainment law and TV film, getting projects out in the world, screenwriters and directors and all that. So I'm just anything that's creative that I can help, get out into the world. Particularly, like I said, I want to have women's backs and get these, because we're the best creatives there are. Yeah,
that's an interesting point of view as well.
But I don't just represent women, but I'm always on the lookout for diverse voices and different perspectives and storytelling.
You said divorced voices?
Diverse.
Oh, diverse.
Yep.
We have a book in Access called Divorce
Voices, whatever. I mean, who can't relate to that?
Well, there's a book. Yeah, not at all. There's a book in Access called Divorceless Relationships. So when you said it, I thought, well, that's really weird. The only time I've ever heard that is in Access Consciousness. Which for those of you that don't know, Access Consciousness, we're in 170 something countries. I keep saying 179, but it seems like everybody has a different number, some 70 something. And we're basically a movement that's taken over the world, right? We show people that they know what they know. And that's kind of what I'm hearing you talk about, because it's a space of trusting the energies, trusting what works for you. And you'd be amazed at what these tools can do. So, I mean, I feel like we're kind of cousins or something, because it sounds like a lot of the same.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to ways of creating.
Yeah.
We're all about creationship.
Yeah. And helping others create as well. So, I always have a creative project going, i.e. a book, going but there's no way I can't do that and help other creatives in the ways that I can. So I kind of feel like I've kind of stepped up my game to another level. And it's not just about me creating, but having, involving other people.
Did you get your bar for California? Did you take the exam during COVID?
Yeah.
I was wondering, because I know there was a little period where I reached out to you when I had the Get Happy podcast before the Choosing Happiness podcast, and I could perceive that there was something brewing in you.
Yeah.
Like for me, it's unrest. You know what I'm saying? Like this thing where I'm like, I'm not doing enough, and yet I've got like 15 projects going. I don't even know how many websites I have. I mean, Little Yellow Book actually has its own website, as seen in all the stuff, choosinghappiness.com. But it's just interesting because it's kind of like I could tap into the energy of where you were getting ready to explode something. And you said you needed some space. And I was like, okay, well, I'll reach out. And I put it on my calendar to reach out.
I appreciate that.
And then when I did get to that spot, I asked the energy and I still got no. So I moved it forward another couple of months. And then when I finally got the energy of it being yes, I said, okay, I've got to remember to reach out to her. I've got to remember to reach. And 2 or 3 days went by, and then bam, I got an email from you. MailChimp. And I went, aha, thank you. See, she heard the whispers. We're doing this little thing. It's this communicative thing that we're doing without even having to do this.
100%.
Which I love.
Well, and I appreciate you checking back. I was going to check back too if you didn't. So we weren't going to let this go.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because, we have so many wonderful things to share with you people out there. Obviously, we know what we're talking about now. In every 10 seconds. Here's the thing, for those of you that are listening. Just because we have these points of view does not mean that they are right or wrong, or they're going to work for you or not going to work for you. They're just things that work for us. And we've seen others thrive with these tools. So you've always got to ask, if I choose this, is it going to create for me? And the thing about bodies, you guys, is when you ask a question that simple, you'd be amazed. And you know what I'm talking about. It's like when somebody invites you to go to do something and you're like, I really don't want to do it, but I have to because of my friend, all the things. And sometimes we have those kinds of moments where it's family or it's a friend or something. And it's not really out of obligation, but, it's the protocol or whatever it is. But you do notice that your body goes, I'm not going to have a good time, whatever it is. And I've been there many times as well. And I always do this deal and deliver with my body, a compromise if it goes down that road, because I kind of feel like I have to finish that story where I have been invited to go do something that I don't really want to do. And so I make sure I show up on time. I engage with the people that invited me. And then when my body's ready to go, I go and I honor myself. Now, there's also like, I'm actually working on 3 books right now. I had one book I was working on and it got kiboshed in latter 2020 because I went through something called PTSD and I was able to unwind it all in a matter of 4 months. And it was the hardest 4 months thus far that I've ever emotionally experienced, and but what the working title is PTSD and Me, and how I used holistic means to get to the other side of it. And I don't take anything. I mean, if I take an Advil, it's very rare, maybe 2 or 3 times a year. Whereas I was on migraine meds. Here I'm a holistic therapist on migraine meds, birth control, acne, adult acne medication. Now, granted, I wasn't on depression medication or anything we would consider to be a big deal. The things I just rattled off are everyday things, but they're designed to keep drama in the body. So as I was doing the holistic approach to get rid of it, my body finally had the permission to unwind all of this angst, and for those of you that know my story, getting shot in India, I would have thought that that would have been the biggest thing. And it ended up being more about my childhood abuse. Mm-hmm. So my body learned very quickly how to disguise that or be the good girl or do all the things. But when I was finally willing to address it and look at it, it unwound all these things. So here I was with that book. There's another book I'm working on now, which is probably going to be the one to jump forward, because there's also a Right Voice for You book that I'm co-creating. And that was the 4 elements. It's funny because you got 5 elements, 4 elements to creating your life, which is, according to Access, this is not my idea. It's Gary Douglas, the founder of Access, came up with this, and we teach it in the foundation class. But it's question, choice, possibility, and contribution. And that's how I live my entire life. I always live as a question, not as the answer. Once you conclude, that's as far as you can get. And the thing about a question is it can always change in every 10 seconds, right? You know, all of a sudden, it's like I was supposed to go to, or I'm going to CF training, Certified Facilitators training in Mexico. And I kept getting this wonky energy about not going. I kept asking questions, and I thought it was about one thing, and it wasn't that. I thought it was about something else, and it wasn't. And then there you are, you're thinking, you're stinking. You know, it's like, what's faster, thinking or knowing? What's your knowing, Rue? And I just kept waiting for it to uncover itself. And then finally, you know, the deadline passed where I could cancel my room or whatever. And I'm supposed to fly out tomorrow. But yesterday afternoon, I got this wonk in my world. Don't go, Rue. Don't go. And a friend of mine kept saying, you know that in Puerto Rico, there's these hurricanes. Aren't you going to Puerto Vallarta? And I said, I am, but it's 6,000 miles away. It's not going to affect us. Well, yesterday afternoon, I'll just put the date on this so you guys will know when this call came out. Today is the 20th of September, 2022. So this was yesterday. And then all of a sudden I get a random text saying there was tremors and well, you get them in California all the time. Earthquake. And it actually messed up 2 of the hotels, one of them that we were going to be using, to the point where they're trying to find rooms for other people. And so how much did my body already know the future? And it was so light in my world. And I said, you know what? I can take the class online. There's a lot going on with construction stuff here. My life is going to be easier. I don't have to be in beautiful Mexico. I've done several classes. I will be there again another time. I asked my body, is this going to create more ease for you? And then I could let all that other shit go that I had been, you know, these mind fucks with me, where I was going, you know, it's this or it's this. I should really stay. My mother's here. I should really stay with her. She, you know, she might leave the water running and I'll come, whatever it is. Things happen. But that's what it is. So getting back to what I was talking about, I know I'm very ADD and ADHD, and I don't take anything for it. It's my superpower.
By the way, Acapulco is under tsunami warnings right now.
Really? Oh, goodness gracious. So see, my body knows. My body is so connected to the earth that it knows when these disasters are happening, which is pretty incredible. So body, I want to acknowledge you for being so amazing, and Mother Earth for including me in these co-creations. It makes me want to cry. I'm so grateful that I have that connection. And so this is what I'm inviting you guys to. I mean, if what we're saying is, you know, tap into your body and see how your body feels about it. And if your body kind of gets those goose pimples or whatever it is, maybe lean in and see if more of this would be for you. And I mean, you can find tishamorris.com. That's very easy. And we'll scroll across the bottom here for the YouTube. There it is. You can find all of her books and all of her things there. Rüdranidevi.com. Same thing. If something you see lights you up, your body's wanting to create with you. If it makes you feel heavy, and you know what that is. It's like when you walk into a room and somebody's had an argument. You didn't hear the argument, but you walked in and went, whoa, what happened here? You know? Acknowledge that you know what you know and follow that energy. So that's my big invitation for all of those that are brave enough to choose it. So, I forgot the microphone. To choose it. At least we're performing.
Choose it.
Girl. Okay, when you get to Nashville next, we're doing the karaoke. And you got to feng shui my house. I'm sorry, I know you'd hit the ceiling, but you know. You will not recognize this house. It is so different now, and it's so happy, and the land was so grateful that I did not leave it behind, because I put the house on the market and was trying to find something that would accommodate my mother and I just wasn't finding it. And the minute I took it off the market, everybody was offering me money, because that's when I decided I'm going to gut the house, add on to it, stay in an apartment. It was like 2.5 miles away, so I was running back and forth to check on the Mexicans to see how they were doing, bringing them waters and stuff, all my little contractor people. Okay, so I've got to ask you 2 questions that we always ask on the Choosing Happiness podcast. Okay. So, Tisha Morris, what do you do? What do you be to get your happy on? What lights up your happy?
My dog, Dove, like the peace symbol, although he's not very peaceful. And definitely just being outside in nature. I think the older I get, I find that peace, where I'm most peaceful, is where I'm most happy.
So what would be that peaceful place for you?
So yeah, nature. Maybe not my dog, even though his name's Dove. But yeah, definitely nature. And we have plenty of that here. Wow. I need to get to the ocean more often than I do.
Yeah, you've got it in your backyard practically. It's just a drive away, right?
Yeah, it's about 20 minutes away, and the mountains are in my backyard too. So I have plenty of opportunities to get my peace, happiness on.
Got it. And it's funny too when you said it, because even Mother Earth doesn't have a point of view about chaos. She's just rolling with it. She just rolls with it. I love that. And I love that you didn't make your insignificant other part of how you get your happy on. Because
I'm too. I had to pause. I was like, wait, no. I caught myself but it was truth. What I said was truth, and but that would have been easy. That would have been too easy. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I know my cat makes me really happy too. She's 19. So crazy. She still kills things. It's like, quit bringing me these bunnies. It's not funny. Don't do that. She's like, here, mommy, look what I got for you. The stomach eating out anyway. Oh boy. So, okay. And then the next thing, if you were going to leave these listeners with one thing, what would that be?
Oh gosh.
I know. I narrowed it down to one. If you have to make it 2 or 3, okay. But
a link to my book. I'm kidding.
We'll make sure that's in the show notes, y'all.
Wow. What's a good piece of wisdom, Rüdrani? Choose happiness.
I will say this.
Something I'm just feeling like I should choose happiness.
I love it. And how apropos, since the podcast is called Choosing Happiness Podcast. I will say this. I know there are those naysayers that say you can't possibly choose your happy. The way the world is, your lot in life, all the things. It is just a choice. You can always outcreate whatever situation you find yourself in.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the invitation really is, hey, if you're not liking your life the way it is, choose something different. Question, hey, is this working for me? You'd be surprised if you just put it out to the universe, throwing a question out there, it will fall all over itself. Use some choices. And it was like the same thing where I just kept moving when I was going to reach out to Tisha. I just was like, is now the time? Okay, maybe now isn't the time. It's just, and then all these other things would pop up. And then when the time was ripe, choose it. So choice, possibility. And then that contribution piece is that last piece, because when you actually co-create, the universe gifts you all this contribution. Look what the fruits of your, I'm going to put in quotes, labor given you in this beautiful co-creation with the planet. Yeah, with your body, with all the things, with Dove, with Pepita. So thank you so much for being my guest today. This has been
my honor.
Unbelievable. I don't know. We went all over the place and I learned so much from you. And I've loved watching you step into all of you the way you have. Some people would say, I would love to watching you grow, girl. But it's more of a, It's more of a you found you. You know, you were willing to be all of you. And, you know, what could that create and generate in your worlds, peeps, if you were willing to choose that?
Well, thank you for being one of the first dominoes for that to happen and for continuing to spread your light. We're all blessed to have you have your light.
I know that some of you can't see me, but I just did my famous Rüdrani happy dance. So now I know you're dying. You just go to YouTube and scroll to the end. You can see that. All right. Well, we'll have all the information where you can find Miss Tisha Morris in all the places with all the books and all the things. And thank you so much for listening. If you know anyone that would benefit from this podcast, please share it with them, this conversation. And if you want to be privy to the podcast, hit the like button, subscribe in all the places where you find podcasts. There we go. I did all the things I was supposed to do, producer Alyssa, who's in the background recording. So until next time, y'all, choose happiness. Ciao, ciao for now. Thank you, Tisha. Thank you so much for choosing happiness. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, share, and give us a like. And if you want more happy, subscribe to the Choosing Happiness membership where you can play directly with me, Rüdrani Devi, the happiness lady. How does it get any better than that?